What's going on, guys? Peace, family. Nothing in real specific today. Um, some days, I just want to make videos on my relative thoughts of things. You know, um, other days, I might, do videos on the perspective of, the economic system and things that are currently going on in the, in the government within America. And then it's days like this, and I just might want to, just talk about, you know, things that's going on today. There's nothing to be real specific about. You know what I'm saying? So, um, with that being said, man, today's a cool day today. You know, um, it's about 80 degrees here in Southern California. So, we're gonna get some things done, man. We're gonna get a nice workout in. Gonna chill with my son. You know, also my daughter's is here, but gonna chill with my son. We're gonna probably get some, good bag workout with boxing. We're gonna do that. But relative, man, it's just a good day, man. And for the most part, I usually, like I said, I talk about, things going on with the economic system, but on other days, I just want to, vibe out and talk about, things going on, on a more personal level. I think that YouTube at times is a little bit too uniform. You know what I mean? I think people are kind of stuck in their own way. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to, things that they may want to post versus things that they should post. And, puts them in this situation where you can't really, step outside the box, because you worry about stepping outside the box and then people don't watch your shit, watch your videos, and, it gets to that YouTuber or whatever, or it may conflict with, them making money. But being that I'm not nowhere in that area just yet, I feel like I just want to, talk about things that I want to talk about, and with that, just vibe out with my own, personal information, and like I said, some days I'll talk about the economic system, and other days I won't. And this is just kind of like a, personal vibe video, and also to touch on, people that reach out, whether it be like via email or people that I may speak with in the comments. I appreciate anybody that's reaching out, in the comments. If you have any type of, thing you want to say, just, put it in the comments, man. But always make sure that, that is respectable. And, if it's respectable, I usually always comment back. Also, what I've noticed is that, it's been an audio issue with my videos. So people always say, hey, man, what's going on with your videos? Like the audio is messed up and, I can't hear you. So with that being said, I'm getting that fixed. So you'll probably see an improvement within my audio probably within like the next couple of days or so. And I'll have that all set up, and we'll be good to go. So you guys don't have to keep telling me every time, you come to my video, oh, your audio, man, your audio, But that's a lot of, new people. Some people I have on here that's been rocking with me for, quite some time that I appreciate, but it's majority of the people that are new that always come to my channel and, tell me about my audio and things like that, But the most important thing is that when I do drop the information, it's coming, in other forms, so you more likely you'll hear, my secondary and third party credibility information a lot a lot more or a lot louder than you would hear my video. So if you're truly paying attention, or if you've actually watched the video all the way through, you'll notice that you can still hear the information, very strongly, and I think that as I'm starting to get my audio fixed, I think you just may need to turn the volume up on my part as I'm speaking, turn the volume up, and then as it kind of rolls into the third party credibility, then turn it down because it might be a little loud. That's what I noticed that's going on. But yeah, we're working on that. We're gonna get that fixed, and we'll be up and running. And also, man, I was looking, and I'm always a person that kind of stays ahead of the curve when it comes to certain things and certain ideas and things like that. And I noticed that media, TV media, is starting to phase out. They're starting to phase out, and I see it because of the type of things that they have to do in order to accumulate the attention that they really want. And that attention is, it has to be like a certain age frame, because because the older generation, is used to watching TV, but the younger generation are more reluctant to be streaming and watching either via YouTube or via a separate social media platform. So old media right now is trying to figure out how to stimulate and continue to accumulate attention, on those platforms. Things like what NBC, Fox, those are all the major brands that you probably know, even if you're in different states in the country. And they're having a hard time, keeping that core audience, because even the older crowd is starting to shift and understand that, media is on the move. Like I see these live platforms that are starting to take over. I think at some point in the next few years, YouTube is going to start to mature and kind of like really settle out, and then live streaming is going to start to pick up and kind of carry that threshold of new viewers. Because when you talk about the younger age bracket, the younger age bracket from the teenager all the way up to the young adults, all the way to the middle age adults, are all kind of switching and trying to pick up their niche or area within the live field. That's going to be the next big media outlet is live, period. So I'm not saying that people should just go and jump and ride a wave or anything like that. I'm just saying from my perspective, based on what I've been seeing, it really is starting to accumulate a lot of attention. People want to know what you're doing on not a day-to-day basis as much, but they want to know what you're doing on a second to minute basis, so that I believe that's a big transformation that's coming. When you talk about huge live streamers like iShowSpeeds, who else is a huge live streamer? Well, Kai Cenat, at one point, I think he kind of stepped away. He doesn't really do live stream like that anymore. I think he was going through like mental health break or mental health issues, as probably what you would probably go through being that young and getting so many people attached to your brand. You more than likely will have, some type of mental issue or mental breakdown, because the expectation level on the outside looking in is a lot stronger than what you may have expected. But yeah, guys like iShowSpeeds, man, and then you got, streamers like Dean the Great. I'm not sure if you guys know him. He's like I don't know if he's an ex-boxer now, because he's not really fighting like he once was. He is a professional fighter, and he has partnered together with a 4 division weight champion in Adrian the Problem Broner. Adrian Broner was someone highly reluctant in stardom and fame in an early age as a 4 division weight champion. He was actually, in history of boxing, he was the youngest champion in the boxing history, right before another fighter had came along. And he is partnered with Dean the Great, and they do these live streams on a separate platform that accumulates a lot of, like I said, a lot of potential, a lot of attention. And it's really different. Like I said, it's crazy to see someone that's consistently showing what's going on a second to minute basis versus a day-to-day basis. Remember, like, it's crazy because you see how the transition is. It's like old media is, they have seasonal shows, right? So you have to wait, you know, Monday off, Tuesday off, Wednesday off, Thursday off, Friday off, but then Saturday, that might be when the big show comes on, and everybody, you know, tunes in either with their families or with their friends, and they tune into that show. And then you gotta wait again, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then Saturday hits, and then that big show is on again. But that's old media, right? And then you got YouTube, which people, when they post videos, they normally post videos on a day-to-day basis, right? The transformation in how you watch or how you attract attention has changed, and is continually changing on a dynamic basis, right? Because you have to understand that attention is a lot faster than what it used to be, right? That's why you got shorts. That's why you got TikTok. So now people can't wait, you know, for you to make that next content piece. So that's where live is starting to transition. It's going to come in. It's going to take a large share of attention from the standard-based ways of making content, because people want to see people on a second to minute basis versus a day-to-day basis, you know. So you can see how, you know, that's going to be able to take a big load from that area of YouTube, which will cause YouTube to kind of straighten up and be on a more settled basis, right? So I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, that's crazy, man. So maybe if you can, you know, start getting your lives and stuff like that set up on certain platforms, you know, you might be able to kind of get in and, you know, get in where you fit in before it starts to stabilize in the next few years and stuff like that. Because a lot of the massive money on YouTube have already been made already. You know what I mean? You can still make money, but, you know, a lot of the big money has already been made. So you have to always kind of, you know, figure out what the next trick is. You know, that's a part of content creation. If you're trying to, you know, filmmaking, all that, you know, it's all the same shit, you know. But yeah, that's it, man. I mean, appreciate you guys taking a listen to this video. This is just shit. We just chopping it up. We just vibing. But with that being said, appreciate you guys taking a listen. St. Nicholas Brand. Until next time. Peace.